So we're going to talk garden to jar today. All right, so why'd you come here this morning? Think about your why. Every time I do these events, every time I talk to people, that's the very first thing I want to know. What is your why? I want to say to every single person in here and everybody watching online, you're here because you're curious, correct? You're curious. And I want to commend you on that because you've decided that you want to educate yourself. And that's commendable. You've decided that you maybe want to step away from what mainstream does and maybe live a different type of lifestyle, and that's commendable. I also want to say there's a lot of reasons why we come to these summits. Some of us come here because we want to reclaim our food. I think that's a theme we can all agree on. We want our food security. We want our food independence. But some other things that go along with that is learning these sustainable practices that some of us don't know anything about. And that's okay. That's why you're here. You're here to learn. So all your workbooks that you have, take all the notes. When you're meeting new people and you're listening to different speakers, jot down all their information. Reach out to them. Reach out to their teams. Follow them on their websites and their social medias. This is how we learn, and this is how we grow. This is how we connect with people, not just the experts, but also the peers that are sitting around you. And we're going to go into community building in a little bit. But we need to build our communities up, and these are a great event to do that at. I'm also going to ask you to take some action today. You took a very big first step coming here. How many people in this room, you have been to this summit before? Look at those hands. What was your reason for coming back? What was your why? You want to learn more things, right? New speakers, new experts, new classes that you can take. So I want you to take action on those things today. Two of the things we're going to talk about in depth for about 15 minutes is food security and food sovereignty. Now, we talk about food security a lot, but one of the things that we don't touch on as much is food sovereignty. So security is your right to have sufficient, safe, and nutritious foods. How many people in this room shop at a grocery store? I think we all do, to some extent, right? Unless you are 100% self-sufficient. And we rely on these companies that are providing our food to provide us with safe and nutritious foods. How many are feeling lately that maybe that trust has been a little bit broken? Shattered. I heard shattered. These food systems that we've come to rely on, a lot of us, through recent generations, has become broken. And so we're really looking to take back that food trust. We want to trust what we're eating. We want to trust that plate of food that we're setting down in front of our children every night. And that leads us to sovereignty. And sovereignty is your right to healthy food that is culturally appropriate for you. Sovereignty and food security go hand in hand. You can gain food security, but you can't keep it if you don't have sovereignty over your food. That means access to clean drinking water, growing water, clean soils. That means access to, if you are on a cultural diet that does not allow a certain type of food, or you have to eat kosher, having access to those foods, or having access to the right to grow those foods. Those two things have to go hand in hand. So when we talk about food security, 54 million Americans are hungry. That number is up from last year. I did this slide again last year. 54 million, we're up from last year. We're not getting better, we're getting worse. Things are not getting better, they're going down. More and more Americans are hungry all the time. And we have 25 million Americans. That's almost 47% of that 54 million that are in the SNAP gap. Have you ever heard of the SNAP gap? SNAP is a food assistance program, helps you get seeds, helps you get food. It's for people that are poverty-stricken, people that fall below a certain income level. They can get those benefits. But almost half of them don't qualify. That gap means that they make too much money for assistance, but not enough money to survive. That's a huge number. So what we do at these food summits is we want to help close that number. We want to help bring communities together so we can help feed our fellow man. Sovereignty is also at a threat. And I have two things here: corporate control, and I could list a lot of these, but I just picked one. 4 companies globally, 4, own 60% of our seeds. Let that sink in for a second. 4 companies, 60% globally of our seeds. And the next one there, we've lost our biodiversity because of this. 75% of the world's food comes from 12 plants and 5 animals. That means most Americans are eating 12 different types of plants and 5 different types of animals. We've lost biodiversity because we've lost access to heirloom seeds. We've lost access to diversity of what we can buy in a grocery store and what we can actually get our hands on to grow. Again, these two things go hand in hand, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but food security. I used to travel with a drum corps, and my responsibility on the drum corps was I was the food mom. Go figure, right? So I was responsible with a team of other adults for feeding 200 young adults 4 meals a day. And because they're athletes, they had to be 5,000 calorie meals every day. It's a lot of food. And what I learned about food during that time is what you put in your body matters. Because you can feed somebody 5,000 calories of empty food and their body's not run properly. I also used to feed a ton of high school kids in different programs, marching band, the performing arts, and I would come set up tables of food. And I had one kid come through the line one time, real tall kid, and he looked healthy. He looked wonderful. He was energetic. And he came through the line and he said, "Mama Sarah, thank you for the food." They all say thank you, and I said, "You're welcome." And he said, "No, I don't think you understand." He said, "I don't have enough food for this weekend. My parents don't have money for dinner. We couldn't get to the grocery store, and this is going to be my last meal before I can get back to school on Monday." I packed up as much food as I could, loaded that kid up with food and sent him home. But this is something that millions of Americans, children and elderly, people possibly sitting next to you, are going through every single day. And you just don't know. You can't look at somebody and know what their struggle is. By the way, I still keep in contact with that kid. He's doing wonderful. He's married, he has a child, and he is food secure. All right, so not to be doom and gloom, let's take a look at what we can do. We're going to look at these 3 things: growing, preserving, and engaging. And when I talk growing, I'm not talking just about seeds and growing food. We got to do better than that. We got to do bigger than that. Every single one of us in this room, you have an idea of what you want your life to look like. But we have to take that back to our communities. We have to start getting this back on the ground level. We have to start doing this locally. So it's not just about growing your food, but it's about growing those relationships and growing in your community. I am one person. Everybody on this stage is one person, and you come to hear us speak. You come to our classes to learn something, but I can't reach everybody in your community. That's on you. That's on you. You need to take that back to your community. Since John brought up how I'm a butcher, we have a saying in surgery. It's called see one, do one, teach one. Does that make you feel comfortable laying on the operating room table? And what that means is you see one, you watch one surgery, you see how it's done, you take notes, you learn how to do it. The next thing you do is you do it. You actually participate in it, and you do it. And then that third one is you turn around and you teach that to somebody else. And we need in this community a see one, do one, teach one attitude. That brings us to preserving. preserving our food, preserving our way of life, preserving our heritage, and then finally, engaging each other. We say this a lot, grow your food, grow your future. This garden to jar path has to start small. It starts small. One person, one homestead, one farmer's market, one educational class in your kitchen with 3 or 4 people that you know that want to learn how to do something. It starts small. If you don't start small, what's going to happen is you're going to get completely overwhelmed. Who in here decided they're going to learn all the things and do all the things? Where's my type A's? It can get overwhelming. And if you try to do all the things all at once, how many things are you going to succeed at? Not many. And if you do succeed at them, you're going to completely burn yourself out, right? So we need to start small. Joining a community, again, we're going to get to a community building here in just a second, and then educating yourself, which you guys have chosen to come here today and do. So bravo. Preserving with a purpose. We're talking about preserving our food and preserving our way of life. When you are learning a new skill on how to preserve your food, you need to learn how to do more than one thing. So maybe it's this year you learn how to can. Maybe next year you're learning how to ferment. Maybe you're gonna save up and buy a freeze dryer. All of those things. We want to learn all of the things so we have a lot of knowledgeable tools in our tool shed. And preserving our way of life. Honoring your cultural heritage and your food. Our food is our story. I have a friend who is a biologist, and he shared an interesting kind of perspective on something that I'm going to share with you here today. And it's his story, not mine. Don't get mad. So he did a study on different species of animals, including humans. And what he found was, in general, women live longer than men. The female species lives longer than the male species. We all know why, but we're not going to talk about it. You guys be doing some crazy stuff. OSHA is there for a reason. But what he found is, in the human species, it's even a longer lifespan than in other species. And he started to ask the question, why? Why is it this way? Who in here is a grandmother or grandfather? I can tell you why. It's our responsibility to pass down every single thing we know to those kids, to your children and your grandchildren. But grandparents hold a very special demographic because they have the knowledge that the parents don't quite have yet. And that is going to help preserve your way of life and your family's way of life. So grandparents, I am tasking you today to pick up those grandkids and get them in the kitchen and get them in the gardens. I have a grandbaby. She is 1. She lives very far from me. We all have to do better. That's all there is to it. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. We just need to do better, because we need to make sure that these future generations are going to have the knowledge and the skills to keep going, preserving our way of life. So powerful preservation. It's powerful. When you take that food and you do something with it to transform it and get it on your shelves and get your family that food security, it's powerful and it's empowering. Canning, fermenting, dehydrating, freeze drying, smoking, salting. There are so many things that we can do. Somebody the other day sent me a video. A woman was waxing eggs. I was like, oh, is that a thing? You know, right? Like, and then I go into a deep hole. I'm like, I need to learn all the things about waxing an egg. And I think we all do that. But there's so many different ways of preserving. Specifically to canning, because I'm teaching in the canning tent today, all day long. Come stop by, come learn a few things. But specifically to canning, we actually get in some of our foods an increased nutritional value when our foods are canned. Not decreased, but increased. Canned tomatoes and canned corn are a prime example of that. The University of Illinois, they did a study where they found that you get 3.5 times more antioxidants from canned tomatoes than a fresh tomato. That's wild, right? So applying heat to corn and tomatoes actually increases their nutritional value. The University of Maine did a study that said there's 17 essential nutrients in canned foods that people get more of than eating them fresh or frozen. So there are certain applications where canned food is really a great nutritional way to eat. 90%, this is the USDA, take it with a grain of salt. Canned fruits and vegetables retain up to 90% of their nutritional value. So for people that live in food deserts and people that don't have access, maybe you live in a city and you don't have access to a community garden or a plot of land where you can grow your own things, canned food is a great alternative for getting your nutritional value every day. And here's another one, bioavailability. So the way our body processes the fiber, when you eat produce, it is more available to your body when it's been canned. So it becomes more useful to your body, and that was the University of California. So there are also nutritional benefits to different types of preservation. So the last part of this here is the engagement. The engagement. So this is the community building. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, there are 3 things here when we're building a community. One is mind, body, and whether you like it or not, spirit. Whether you're a religious person, non-religious, it doesn't matter. There is a spiritual connection in community. The mind is having the knowledge, and to do this, to help strengthen our minds in our communities, we need to share our skills. Who in here does any type of bartering? Is that still alive and well? Yes, yes. And I think in the homestead community more than anywhere else in the world, really. I barter for honey. I barter for potatoes. I barter for garlic. Actually, now that I think about it, I probably barter more than I actually do. But anyways, bartering in your community helps strengthen the mind of the community. Remember when I talked earlier about starting small, not doing all the things? Where are the people that don't like or don't know how to bake bread? I'm going to raise my hand because I do not enjoy baking bread. It is not my thing. All right, now raise your hand if you are the baker. You love it, you know how to do it. Okay, everybody that doesn't like baking bread, look around. Who just had their hand up? Where are my bread bakers? All right, non-bread bakers, look around. Take note. I want you to go to that person right after this and say, hey, do you live around here? Because we don't need to do it all. We don't need to do it all. What we need to do is build a community that can help us do it all. I don't want to bake bread. I'm not good at it, okay? But I can can something. Oh, you just took a deer and you don't have a pressure canner? Bring that meat over here. I got a canner or a freeze dryer. I'll run 3 trays for you, 1 for me. Right? We barter, we trade skills, we trade commodities, and this is the way to bring this back down to our community levels. Who, every time you leave the grocery store, are a little more sticker shocked every time? My goodness, what is happening, right? We need to start spending our time and our money intentionally, and that happens between us. Community body, health of one is health of all. We're only as strong as our weakest link. And then community spirit, we need to collectively get back into a co-creative space with not only nature but with each other. Co-creative space, nature and each other. All right, so I think my time is like near up. So last slide. Commit to one thing today. And I'm going to share a story, and I see this beautiful couple sitting in front of me, and I'm not going to point them out. but I'm going to share their story with their permission, of course. Last night we were talking, and it just reminded me so much of me and my husband. And he's kind of the more go-getter. He wants to learn all the things and do all the things, and he's got a list of things that he wants to learn and learn how to do. And she's more of the, we are doing the things, right? We did this. Well, last year they left here. They wanted a goal of raising their own meat birds. And this year when I spoke to them, he said, I want to learn more things. And she said, you know what? We're raising the meat birds this year. And that's what we need to do. We need to support each other. There's always one person that is the kite and one person that's the kite string. If you're not married to each other, find yourself a friend. And start doing one thing today. That's it, one thing. Grow one garden bed. Grow one tomato plant on a balcony. Engage one person and say, hey, I see you're a bread baker. Can I have your number? That's all you need to do. Do one thing and preserve one thing and engage one person. And I think if we do that collectively, we can start growing. We can start growing and we can start taking back control of our food security and our food sovereignty. I want to thank you guys. Don't clap yet. Don't do it. I want to thank you guys for having me back here. I come back here every year. And I always say coming back here feels like coming home. This is a very different environment than a lot of homesteading events that I do. And the difference here is the community. Everybody that keeps coming back year after year because there's more to learn and more to share with each other. So I want to thank you for having me back again this year. I want to urge you to come to the canning tent. We're going to be canning all day. I want to urge you to take notes, make connections, and please, if any of this resonates with you, stop by our destination preservation booth. We're creating an entire documentary around these foundational principles, and we need help. We need you guys. We need like minds to help us get this off the ground. Also, the book is available. I said that yesterday. It's still available again today. Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy your food summit.